He had just gotten off a 12-hour shift, his hands still sore from hauling crates at the warehouse, his eyes heavy with exhaustion, but his heart light, because he was finally home. Marcus Thompson, a 34-year-old single father and veteran, had just bought his first home in a quiet, mostly white suburb outside Atlanta. It wasn't much, but it was his. A modest two-story with a red door and a backyard big enough for his daughter Nia to chase butterflies. He parked his dusty old Dodge Charger in the driveway, stepped out with his duffel bag slung over one shoulder, and smiled as he stared at the house he had worked 3 jobs to afford. But his peace would last all of 30 seconds. That's when she saw him. Across the street, behind the rose bushes and the beige blinds, Karen Whitmore, a woman with a homeowners association badge, a Bluetooth headset, and a clipboard, froze mid-sip of her morning coffee. She squinted. She scowled. Then she stormed out her front door like a woman possessed. "Excuse me," she barked, marching across the street in her designer flats like she was inspecting a crime scene. Marcus turned, puzzled. "Yes?" "This is a private residence," she snapped. "We don't tolerate solicitors or loiterers around here." Marcus blinked, then smiled patiently. "Ma'am, I live here." Karen laughed, a short, sharp sound. "I know who lives here. The previous owners were the Sanders family, retired dentists. They wouldn't just sell to anyone." Marcus pulled out his house keys slowly. "Well, I bought it from them last week. I've got the deed inside if you'd like to see it." That only made her angrier. "Don't get smart with me. I've seen people like you before. You probably broke in. I'm calling the police." "Please don't do that," Marcus said, voice low, hands open. "There's no need." But she was already dialing. "I have a trespasser," she told the 911 dispatcher, her voice trembling with manufactured panic. "He's aggressive. He's threatening me. He's trying to break into a house." Marcus stood frozen, heart pounding. He knew how these things played out. Minutes later, 2 squad cars screeched up to the curb, lights flashing. Officers leapt out, guns drawn. "Get on the ground! Hands where I can see 'em!" Marcus dropped his bag and complied without hesitation. "This is my house," he shouted as he lay on the concrete. "I just bought it. Check the deed in the mailbox." Karen stood off to the side, arms crossed, smirking. "Told you," she whispered. But then something happened. A 3rd car pulled up. Not a squad car, an all-black Lincoln Town car. Out stepped an older black woman in a sharp navy pantsuit and red-bottom heels, attorney Cheryl Price. She wasn't just any lawyer, she was Marcus's godmother, and the head of the Georgia Civil Liberties Coalition. "What's going on here?" she demanded, striding up to the officers like she owned the block. One cop turned. "Ma'am, please step back." She flashed her badge, not a police badge, an official legal observer ID. "This man is Marcus Thompson. I personally oversaw his home purchase. His name is on the deed. You're about to violate a dozen civil rights statutes. So I suggest you check your system, now." The officers hesitated. One of them radioed dispatch. A few tense moments passed. Then the officer's eyes widened. He's right. He's the legal owner." Karen's smug expression evaporated. "That can't be right," she stammered. He was threatening me." Attorney Price turned to her, her voice cool and sharp. "Oh, we've got everything on camera. Multiple Ring doorbells caught it, including the part where you lied to 911, which is a felony in this state." Karen's face drained of color. Marcus slowly got up, brushing dirt from his jeans. His arms trembled, not from fear, but fury he barely held in check. The officers apologized. Weakly, they offered no real explanation, just that they were responding to a call. But Cheryl wasn't done. "Marcus, we're filing a formal complaint. Racial profiling, false police report, emotional trauma, and I'll make sure this video gets in front of every major news outlet in Atlanta." Karen tried to backpedal. "Wait, Let's just forget this ever happened." "Oh, we won't," Cheryl said. Later that evening, as the sun dipped low and the neighbors peeked from behind curtains, Marcus stood on his front porch, holding his daughter in his arms. She'd seen the whole thing. "Daddy," she whispered, "why was that lady so mad?" He kissed her forehead. "Because some people think they know who belongs and who doesn't. But we do belong, baby, no matter what they say." And just when it seemed the storm had passed, a knock on the door. Marcus opened it cautiously. A man in a suit, slim, white, mid-40s. He looked uncomfortable. "I'm James Whitmore," he said stiffly. "Karen's husband." Marcus tensed. "I need to talk to you about something she did. Something I think you need to know." Marcus narrowed his eyes. "Go on." James hesitated. "It's about your deed and the bank she used to work for. There's something wrong with your mortgage papers. Something I think she tampered with." Marcus's blood ran cold. "You might not be the only one," James said. "And if I'm right, she's been doing this to other black families too." The camera slowly zooms in on Marcus's face. Not rage, not fear, resolve. Because now, this wasn't just about his house. It was about every family that had ever been pushed out, locked out, or priced out. And Marcus wasn't just going to fight back. He was going to burn the whole corrupt system down. Marcus didn't sleep that night. He sat at the kitchen table, the deed to his house spread out in front of him, the papers he once held with pride now tinged with suspicion. His daughter Nia slept peacefully upstairs, but Marcus's mind was racing. What did James mean? What could Karen have possibly done with the bank? By morning, attorney Cheryl Price was already back at the house, a full legal team in tow. They cross-referenced Marcus's mortgage documents with public property records, and that's when the cracks started to show. "Marcus," Cheryl said, her brow furrowed, "there are discrepancies in your paperwork. The notary stamp on the mortgage isn't from a licensed notary. The interest rate clause, it's inflated. And get this, your loan was processed through a community partner lender Karen used to manage." Marcus stared at her. "Are you saying she set me up?" "I'm saying," Cheryl replied grimly, "this wasn't just a racist outburst. It was premeditated. She tried to trap you in a predatory loan, in a house she never wanted you to own. But that wasn't all." James, still riddled with guilt, returned with a thumb drive. "This has every transaction Karen handled through her fake lending firm, every forged signature, every targeted family, all of them black or Hispanic. She used her HOA connections to identify buyers, then worked through back channels to load them with debt or sabotage their paperwork so they'd default and lose the home." Marcus's hands balled into fists. Dozens of families, dozens of lives. It wasn't just personal. It was systemic. Cheryl's voice was steady. "We're taking this public." Within 48 hours, Marcus's story was all over the news. Karen mortgage scam trended nationwide. Local channels ran footage of the incident, edited alongside Marcus's calm restraint and Karen's meltdown. Her smug expression as she dialed 911 became a meme and a symbol. The backlash was immediate. Karen was fired from her position at the bank. The Georgia Department of Banking and Finance launched an official investigation. But it didn't stop there. Families who had never spoken out came forward. Families like the Lopez's, who mysteriously lost their home to foreclosure even after making every payment. Or the Johnsons, who were evicted after their mortgage ballooned overnight without warning. Every story traced back to Karen, and every lie unraveled. In court, Cheryl represented each family pro bono, and when Karen finally showed up, escorted by her high-priced legal team, she looked like a ghost of the woman who once strutted across Marcus's lawn. The judge didn't mince words. "What you've done isn't just unethical, it's criminal, and it reeks of racial bias." Karen was charged with fraud, falsifying financial records, and civil rights violations. Marcus sat in the courtroom, Nia beside him, holding his hand. Justice, finally, was more than a word. But just when things seemed to settle, Marcus received a certified letter in the mail. It wasn't from Karen, it was from the bank she used to work for. A cold, corporate message. Dear Mr. Thompson, please be advised that your property is part of a bundled loan package under federal review. Due to inconsistencies in original loan processing, your mortgage and others in the same tranche may be subject to repossession pending federal audit. Your loan has been flagged. Marcus read the letter again. Then a third time. They were trying to take his house. Again. He called Cheryl. They're trying to sweep this under the rug, she said. Blame processing errors to avoid liability. But this isn't over, Marcus. We're going after the entire system. That night, Marcus stood in the backyard staring at the stars. His daughter ran up behind him. Daddy? Yeah, baby? Are they going to take our house again? He knelt, looked her in the eyes. Number they can try, but this time we're not alone. Just then, a car pulled up to the curb. A sleek black SUV. Two men in suits stepped out. Federal agents. They weren't here to ask questions. They were here to serve subpoenas. And the last thing one of them said to Marcus before walking away sent a chill through him. There's more to this than Karen. You stumbled onto something bigger, something national. Marcus looked down at the folder they handed him. Dozens of names, dozens of fake lenders, a network of discrimination and deception rooted deep in the housing system. Karen was just a symptom. Now, Marcus was staring down the disease. Washington, D.C. wasn't where Marcus thought this journey would take him. Just 3 months ago, he was a warehouse supervisor trying to give his daughter a better life. Now, he was walking through the halls of Congress, flanked by attorneys, activists, and journalists, holding a binder filled with names, forged signatures, doctored loan papers, and stories like his. The folder the federal agents gave him, it didn't just implicate Karen. It connected to a web of predatory lenders, fake notaries, falsified credit reports, and it all traced back to a shadowy mortgage bundling scheme spanning 5 states. And the victims? Nearly all people of color. Cheryl Price pushed open a set of double doors. Inside sat the House Oversight Committee. Cameras flashed. Lawmakers leaned forward. Marcus took a deep breath, and then he told his story. From the moment Karen approached him on his own lawn, to the cops shoving his face into the pavement, to discovering the fraudulent loan she orchestrated, and finally, uncovering the paper trail that stretched across the country. Gasps echoed through the chamber as he read testimony from elderly couples forced into foreclosure, single mothers tricked into balloon loans, young families promised safe neighborhoods, but robbed of stability. The committee chair nodded solemnly. We've suspected these practices, but this is the clearest evidence we've ever seen. Marcus's voice didn't shake, not once. This wasn't just about one racist neighbor. This was an industry designed to keep people like me from ever truly owning a piece of the American dream. And then came the twist. A whistleblower. A former executive from one of the shadow banks stepped forward. Anonymous, voice disguised. But her words were like a blade. There were internal memos. They called it the threshold formula. It was simple. Target low-income minority families, trap them in toxic loans, and force them to sell when they default. Then resell the homes to wealthier white buyers at a profit. Over and over. It was systematic displacement. Gentrification in disguise. The room fell silent, and then exploded. Within a week, multiple federal agencies launched coordinated raids. Offices in Georgia, Texas, Illinois, and New York were seized. Computers, hard drives, entire servers, gone. Karen's face reappeared in the news, this time in an orange jumpsuit. She wasn't the only one. Over 40 others were arrested across the country. Marcus returned home to a neighborhood that now looked at him with respect, and maybe a little guilt. The woman across the street? She brought over a pie. Said nothing, just left it on the porch. But not everyone was pleased. One night, Marcus found a brick through his window. A note wrapped around it. "You should have stayed quiet." He installed cameras, doubled his security, but he wouldn't be silent. Not now. Cheryl called the next morning. "They've just approved your proposal, Marcus." He blinked. "What proposal?" She grinned. "The Justice Housing Act. You're not just telling your story anymore. You're helping rewrite the laws. The act would enforce stricter regulations on community lending, outlaw unlicensed third-party notaries, and require real-time public access to all mortgage transfers. It would create the first national database of discriminatory lending practices." Marcus stood on the steps of the Capitol, Nia holding his hand, Cheryl beside him. They had come a long way from that red door, but just as the cameras zoomed in for a victory shot, a black SUV pulled up. A man in a gray suit stepped out. Bald, expensive watch, cold eyes. He handed Cheryl a sealed envelope. She opened it, read it, froze. "What is it?" Marcus asked. She looked at him slowly. "It's a cease and desist." "From who?" She hesitated. "From Nexus Capital." Marcus's eyes narrowed. "Who's Nexus?" Cheryl's voice dropped to a whisper. "They own the shadow banks. They fund the lenders. They bought up entire blocks of foreclosed homes across the South and flipped them into rental empires. They're behind this. All of it." Marcus took the letter, read the words. "You are hereby ordered to discontinue public dissemination of confidential corporate materials pertaining to mortgage distribution or face federal litigation." Nexus wasn't scared of jail time. They were scared of the truth getting out. And now they were coming for Marcus, not with cops, not with bricks, with lawyers, with money, and with power. But Marcus wasn't backing down. He looked back at Nia, then out at the flashing cameras. "You tell Nexus this," he said. "You can try to sue me, you can try to silence me, but I own this house, and I'm not leaving." The letter from Nexus Capital changed everything. Marcus had faced prejudice, threats, even attempted sabotage. But this was different. This was a billion-dollar corporation coming at him with polished lawyers, airtight NDAs, and enough cash to bury the truth forever. But Marcus had something they didn't. Purpose. Still, he knew he couldn't fight them alone. Cheryl assembled a war room of legal strategists, civil rights attorneys, and investigative journalists. They built a case file so massive it needed its own storage server. Marcus spent days in and out of depositions, public hearings, interviews. And all the while, the pressure built. Then came the betrayal. It was subtle at first. Marcus noticed Cheryl avoiding his calls. Long silences on conference calls. Excuses when press events were scheduled. Then, one night, Nia handed him an envelope she found stuffed under the front door. It was a confidential memo, addressed to Cheryl Price, from Nexus Capital. "We are prepared to offer full retention at 7 figures annually for a transition to our compliance division, NDA included, silence guaranteed." Marcus couldn't breathe. He called her, no answer, so he drove to her office. The lights were off, doors locked. She was gone. His godmother, his protector, his legal champion, bought. The news broke the next morning. Cheryl Price joins Nexus Capital as head of diversity compliance. TV anchors called it a win for inclusion. Marcus knew the truth. They didn't beat her with threats. They beat her with a check. Marcus stood in his living room watching the coverage, hands shaking. Nia came downstairs in her pajamas, rubbed her eyes. "Is the lady on TV helping us now, Daddy?" He didn't know how to answer. That night he sat at the kitchen table alone. No lawyers, no cameras, just a man who had trusted too many people. But then, a knock at the door. It was James Whitmore again, Karen's estranged husband, now divorced, publicly apologetic, and determined to make things right. "I have something," James said. Something Cheryl was hiding. He handed over a hard drive, encrypted. hidden in Nexus's internal system. Marcus plugged it in, and there it was, the smoking gun, a document titled Project Redeem. It was Nexus's internal playbook. It outlined everything: target demographics, fake lenders, gentrification maps, even plans to build community housing on land taken from evicted black families. Worse, Cheryl had known about it for weeks. She didn't just walk away. She left the truth behind. Marcus made a decision. He called the one reporter who'd stuck with him from day one, Lisa McKnight, Channel 7 News. He gave her everything: the documents, the audio files, the forged emails. Within 24 hours, it was live. Exposed. Billion-dollar housing scam targeting minority homeowners. The footage went viral. Congress reopened hearings. Marcus was called back to testify, this time with proof. Karen, now in federal custody, agreed to testify in exchange for a reduced sentence. Her testimony sealed it. Nexus was hit with the largest civil rights lawsuit in housing history. Over 4,000 families would receive settlements. The executives, indicted. The fake lenders, shut down. Cheryl Price, subpoenaed. And Marcus? He kept his house. Not just because it was his legal right, but because he earned it. On the anniversary of his ordeal, the mayor of Atlanta presented Marcus with a city proclamation. Marcus Thompson Day, for courage, for justice, and for refusing to be silent. He stood on the steps of City Hall, Nia in his arms, eyes scanning the crowd. He wasn't just a homeowner anymore. He was a symbol, a reminder that injustice could be fought, and that justice, though slow, would come. Justice had been served. But as Marcus stood there soaking in the cheers, a black SUV pulled up across the street. Tinted windows, no plates, and then it pulled away, slowly, quietly. Lisa McKnight leaned in. "You made enemies, Marcus. Are you ready for what comes next?" Marcus didn't flinch. He looked into the camera. "I wasn't ready before, but I am now." What would you do if you uncovered a billion-dollar conspiracy? Would you fight, stay silent, or take the deal? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Black Struggles, where the truth always finds a voice.